All right, what can I help you with?
It was just about the Facebook, and my difficulty I find is that whilst it's taking a while to be effective, I can't decide, because I do them myself, I can't decide whether it's the just taking a while to be effective or whether it is the content and the graphics and the actual ad that is not performing. And it's I find a very difficult decision to make.
Give me the context. Industry and what type of ad are you running?
The industry, I'm in fashion retail.
Mm-hmm. Are you running video ads? Are you running what sort of campaigns have you run?
No, look, pretty basic. I haven't done a lot of it, but they're static, photos. And the last one I did was carousel.
Okay, you did a carousel. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you been running them for? What's the longest you've run one campaign for?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I'd have to go back because I do a lot of sort of probably what you would call ad hoc testing.
Good.
With no real system, I've got to admit. But,
so are we talking days or weeks?
We're talking weeks, but not huge weeks. I'd probably say 2 to 3 weeks would be the maximum of an ad.
Okay, great. And give me an idea of the amount of, what budget would you have spent on that one campaign? It doesn't need to be exact, but give me a bit of an idea on how much you would have spent over that 2 weeks.
I usually do between $5 to $10 a day.
Oh, yep. Okay. So $70 over 2 weeks. Oh, somewhere between 70 and $140 over that time. Now, one more question, just so I've got all the information. How broad was it? Did you target 5 kilometres from your place or the whole of Australia or females between this and this age in your state? How broad was the targeting?
I've done a whole lot of different ones. I do have a database, so I've done the whole lookalike
Very
thing.
good, yeah.
As well as my database. Interestingly, though, that's not a big demographic, which really surprised me on Facebook. My database didn't bring up a big demographic or a big lookalike, which I thought was a bit strange because they are my customers. But anyway, so I've got one currently going that because I'm retail, I'm predominantly retail. I do have online, but so I've currently got one going that is for advertising one of my boutiques in an area. So I've done the specific area and the surrounds. I think it's about 50 kilometres around that area.
So we're not talking about a large population. That's kind of what I wanted to find out is how big it is.
No.
Okay, so if you're spending...
No, we're not talking about large population.
If you're spending, say, $100 over 2 weeks to a small area, that is enough saturation, okay? If you'd said to me, I'm pushing everybody in the state, I would say you haven't spent enough money. The fact that it's a small geographical area says to me you probably are. That tells me that it's a content issue, okay? So the way that we speed up, so your question was, I don't know whether it's the content that's the issue or not enough time. The way we fix that issue is we throw more money at it, right? That's really the only way. If you want to shorten the time frame, you double down on spend and you double your exposure, right? That's because it's about getting enough data. You're either going to get the data over 4 weeks or you're going to get it over 2 weeks if you spend twice as much money, okay? So when I look at the data you've just given me, spending about $100 in a small area over 2 weeks, I reckon most people would have seen the ad. And so in that case, it tells me that the creative isn't working. And that doesn't surprise me because in 2019, we are so saturated with content that it really needs to be different to pop out. It really has to be something good to jump out in my newsfeed. So I think it could be wise for you to pause your ads, invest a little bit of money. Let's say, for example, you were prepared to spend another $200 in the next month, right? Just picking a figure. I would go and invest that $200 in getting some uni student to come and film some really good quality creative content, and then I would go back out and put my ads up. Now that may not be. I mean, images of products is 50-50 whether that works. But if it was you, for example, you to camera, sun going down, you know, or whatever, sitting, you know, having a nice coffee, and you were just pitching the vision for your business or your big reason why, you know, even if you were pointing people back to one of your stockists, whatever. But it's got to be emotive. It's got to catch my attention. And most stuff doesn't anymore. It's become vanilla, right? Most stuff on content, you know. So I just think, you know, if I were you, I would probably re-engineer the creative and then go back out and do another test. And here's what I would want to do. I would want to completely change my creative to something really intriguing. Then I would come back and I would spend $100 over 2 weeks to the same audience. And I would want to see, because then if I get a better result, that tells me that it was the creative that needed it improving.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
And the way I would recommend doing any of this, right, is, you know, and I'm just using that example, you change your numbers to be whatever you want, but if I could get, for example, if I could spend $100 over 2 weeks to my area and get 26 inquiries, whether that be at your local stockist or messages, whatever your call to action is, then I would go, okay, can I spend $300 and get 3 times 26? Okay, because what we're trying to do with Facebook is find the golden vein. Once we hit it, we chase that thing like crazy. So if I can get a return on my $100, I want to see if I can get a return on my 300. If I can get a return on my 300, I want a return on my 1,000. And we keep, at some point, you will stop getting a return. Then you've got to look to going, okay, different creative or different region, right? But I want to milk that golden vein for as long as I can. So, I mean, you're probably doing it mostly right. I just feel like you may want to really consider something very different for your creative, because most retail businesses are just putting up nice photos and we become numb to them. Yeah,
it makes sense. I know that our own content, when we do it, which is our own imagery with our product on us, that does get the most response when we just post on our Facebook page. So absolutely, I understand what you're saying.
But I'd do one with a video of you, and I'd get you in a nice setting, and I'd be like, hey, thanks for your interest in our company. You know, I started this business because, and I'd go real high level. And I would draw people into my story and my emotion. And that's got nothing, you can bring imagery of products, you know, after 20 or 30 seconds of them watching you could bring imagery of your products through. But I want people to get wound up in your story, because that's your brand. And once they buy your brand, they'll buy any product.